Welcome. I apologize for being mic'd. People don't usually appreciate when that happens, but we are actually being recorded so that our video goes on patent somewhere, we believe. So if you hear me repeating things that you say in the audience, it's for the video. We also, if there are questions or comments, we're going to be trying to pass around microphones. So if you can just hold on until somebody gets a microphone to you, that is very helpful. We are talking about healthy relationships. So if you're supposed to be in a different session, now's the time to run away before it makes me sad. Okay. And we're going to be here until about 4:45. If anybody's ever been to a PYLN session, we're usually pretty casual, so feel free to talk to us and raise your hand. And we're going to get up and move around a little bit and do some activities, so hopefully you guys all have fun. So who has been to a PYLN session before? I see some familiar faces. Cool. So a lot of new people. That's exciting.
Yeah, I'm excited.
I like that. Have you been here before? Yeah, he really is. We keep trying to give him coffee, but it's not working.
It's the rain.
It is the rain. I agree. Do we have enough chairs for everybody?
I can get more.
Oh, yeah, they're up. We stole them from our affiliate session.
Hey guys, if y'all need, y'all can put like my stuff on a windowsill or something like that.
Yeah.
If I'm hogging up a seat.
Chris, there's like 4 up here.
Or like put it in my book bag. It's fine. Yeah. It's whatever.
Do you want us to bring those chairs back?
Sure, if people
sure.
need them. There's also table room all the way up front, super close to all of us, if you're so inclined.
Whatevs.
We're all friends here. Okay, so we do have a disclaimer up here. It makes it feel very dramatic, but we just do want people to know that we're going to be talking about relationships. We might not get too in depth, but sometimes topics can be a little bit sensitive. We really want to be creating a space where everyone is very respectful of people's opinions and of the comments that they make here. I am teetering on saying a safe space. Feel like people don't love that term. We are also not at all experts by any means. We're just trying to provide a conversation about healthy relationships from a youth perspective to youth and their families. So that's really our goal here today, and ultimately, like I said, just being respectful of everybody in the room. Sound good? All right, Chris.
So, Ali, who are you?
Oh, yeah. So, I'm also struggling today. My name is Allie. I have been a part of PYLN, or the Pennsylvania Youth Leadership Network, for however many years. I think 8, maybe. We've been going to the conference for quite a few years. I love doing the youth and family sessions. I think this kind of conversation and dynamic between parents and their youth and professionals in the youth that they work with is really important. So I'm excited to be here.
Awesome.
Talk into that. Like,
Yeah. Testing. Whoa. Okay. Okay, let's just hold it at this distance. Greetings, everyone. My name is Christopher Deans. I am a board member of PYLN. Been a board member for about 5 years, 5 or 6. I live and work full-time in Philadelphia. I work in homeless services in Philadelphia. And this is the opportunity to connect with the youth and lead these sessions are the high point of my conference. So I'm looking forward to it and having a great discussion. Brandon, on to you.
Hi, can you hear me? I'm Brandon Snyder. I've been with PYLN for 7 years or so now. I work for Nationwide Insurance, so everyone can go ahead and sing the jingle in their head. Right, and then you can never do it again. And I also don't know how to spell outer, apparently. There's only one T. Yeah, there's only one T.
Who knew that there was only one T?
Alrighty, awesome.
Fun fact.
Ready?
We also have Everett Dibler here, who's like floating around. He might come in. And we have a new governing board member, which is very exciting. Jess, can you sprint quickly up here so that you can have a microphone?
Hi, I'm Jessica McKenty. I work at the ARC of Lehigh, Northampton counties. I'm their new advocacy director there. And I have been a governing board member in technicality for like 2 hours.
There we go.
So nice to meet y'all.
Crushing it.
Solid. Nailing it.
Yep. We like to throw new governing board members into the deep end, which is the transition conference. And they can handle that, then you can handle anything.
And Adam's back there too. He's
Ah,
volunteering with us. Adam Hendy, you know.
We like to bring Adam
he can
around
introduce himself.
sometimes.
We appreciate his time and his service.
Introduce yourself.
He does
So
like-
Hi, this is Adam.
You're welcome, Adam. I tried to skip you, but they didn't let us.
Thanks, Allie. Hi, I'm Adam.
There we go.
Woo! Everybody give Adam a round of applause. It's that type of speech that we're looking for, Adam.
Believe it or not, he's an educator
He sure is.
at one of the best high schools in the state.
I love it. All right. So as you can see, we all have very healthy relationships with one another here. We're gonna keep that theme going. Go ahead, Grace. So the first thing that we're gonna sort of go over are the types of relationships that there are. They're very broad categories that we're going to do. I wanted to ask, who attended the Peels Healthy Relationship session? Nice. Okay, so a couple people. So we did talk with Peel beforehand because we recognized that we were both doing healthy relationship sessions, and we wanted to make sure that in case people didn't go to both sessions, we were kind of covering everything, but we didn't want too much overlap that people felt like they missed out on some other session because they went to both. So we are going to give more of an overview of relationships in general, and then go in a little bit deeper and discuss how to develop relationships, support relationships, and the process regarding that. Okay? So family is really the first type of relationship that we think of, and we're gonna for each talk about who's involved in that type of relationship, the roles that people have, and some appropriate healthy behavior that typically occurs in those types of relationships. So family might be, sorry. Not yet, I'm so verbose.
Sorry.
So family tends to be blood relation. It can also just be those who care for us, close, long-term friends, and people really define family differently. I'm sure just in the people that we have in this room, each and every person has a different definition of family, and would define the people in that circle differently as well. Typically within a family, there can be a power imbalance. So you think about the adults or the parents or guardians in a relationship, and then the youth. There are often a set of rules that are followed. So you think of a household that might have different rules about when curfew is or what tasks need to be completed in a household. So those sorts of things. Some appropriate and healthy behavior with regards to family includes open communication, respect for authority that's within a family, respect for autonomy, which is my dollar word that I keep throwing around this week, which really just means respect for the individual and their own idea of goals. And some physical affection is often okay with families too. So you might hug your mom or give a kiss to your mom, those sorts of things. Any questions with family? Okay, go ahead. Does anybody else want to do friends?
Sure. So a friend. Friend is
Microphone,
the family
Chris.
member. Yes, microphone. This is gonna make it so fun. Hello. Okay. So friend, the family member that we get to choose and hopefully doesn't annoy our lives. So one of the cool things about a friend is typically this is the individual, the family, the partner, the relationship in which you enjoy a lot of your social settings with. So it's a person that you more than likely, or someone that you would like to have fun with, someone as you make the active choice to be around, whether you met them throughout, somewhere in your community, your school. You might had a person that introduced you to the friend. But more than likely there's someone that you share some type of common interest with, whether it be sports or you guys like to go to the movies together, whatever your interest or something, whatever that relationship is built around, is typically a chosen, cohesive experience. Typically, the roles within a friendship, typically it's not like a family relationship where it's like a blood relation. So it's not like a level to it. Like say if you're, your mom, your dad, and things of that nature. Typically, you guys are kind of like on a neutral level playing field. And also, one of the unique things about our friendships is that we're able to have different relationships and different conversations with a different set of friends. Like for instance, some of my friends at work, I wouldn't have the same conversation with them as my friends at church, because my friends at work will have a deeper understanding of the things that's happening at work, whereas my friends at church might not have that same experience because they're not involved in that same part. Obviously they don't work in the field that I work at. So some of the appropriate behavior to keep in mind with a friendship, there's typically, minor to little physical affection. You always have to have you should have a respectful and a healthy gauge of ideas and what they're sharing. So always keeping that relationship respectful. More than likely, there's going to be a give and take within the dynamics of the friendship. Like for instance, I know with some of my friends, we go out to eat on weekends or like after church, and even though I hate going to like steakhouses, they might want to go to like the Outback or to the Longhorn, when I just want to go to Olive Garden or Maggiano's or something like that. Sometimes you have to compromise and try to see if Outback can make you some Alfredo. But so it's like kind of like a a give and take portion of the relationship. But it should be like a relationship in which you can depend on one another. So it should be some level of mutual support going on within a relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yep.
Professional.
And then another type of relationship is professional. So who those types of people would be teachers. You're going to have a different relationship with your teacher than you would a friend, obviously. Bosses, they always make me do this slide because I work at Nationwide in a corporate environment. But everyone in their job has as a boss, and then you have coworkers. So you aren't going to have the same kinds of relationships with a boss or a coworker as you would maybe someone outside of the workplace. Support staff, so someone maybe who is in your life as an aide or support aide would not have the same kind of relationship as maybe a family member or a friend. And the big thing to remember about the professional relationships is that these are usually people we don't choose to be around, possibly.
It feels so aggressive.
It
the way we
does
put,
feel-
like,
it does feel
a
really
star
aggressive
there, and we were like,
because-
we do not. choose these people.
And obviously you choose where you want to work and the field of or the field of study, possibly in a school, but you don't always get to choose the people that come with that
Right.
aspect of your life, right? The roles, there are going to be different levels of power, even within the professional role or the professional relationship. A boss is going to have a different level, obviously, of power versus a coworker. You kind of have to define what that's going to be. Same as, like we talked about, friends, you're on a mutual playing field. In a professional relationship, you might not be on a mutual playing field. You're going to have a supervisor or a lead that might be have some authority over you in your position. And there's clear structures and rules, obviously, in a professional relationship. There are going to be a lot stricter boundaries, and it might not always be defined by what you decide. It could be defined by the company that you work for or the organization that you're working for. Appropriate behavior. So for a professional relationship, a lot of times there's no physical contact or very little. Usually at the most maybe a handshake, possibly a high five, but or fist bumps like those too. But those are going to be defined obviously by the place that you work at or the type of relationship that it is. And then respectful language. You're obviously not going to talk with your coworkers the same way you might talk with a really close friend or a family member. And it's going to be a more formal relationship. It's going to be more structured. There's going to be rules set around how you can interact with people in a professional relationship.
And I think, too, we're kind of putting everything into little boxes right now, but when we do our activity, we're going to talk about where overlap is and how there's sometimes movement between one type of relationship to the next. And in all of these, we keep kind of saying, like, it depends on where you work, or it depends on who your family is. So none of this is sort of black and white, and these are the rules and this is how it goes. But these are just things that typically occur in those types of relationships. Go ahead. So how did I get this one? So, there's a weird bug. That's distracting. So romantic relationships. So this is someone who you really enjoy spending time with, and we could not figure out how to exactly define it because it's kind of something that you can't describe. So for lack of a better term, they give you butterflies. It's very similar to a friendship relationship, and really the strongest romantic relationships are kind of friends first. But there's something extra about that person that you really enjoy spending time with. Still mutual respect and caring, just like in a friendship. Appropriate behavior, open communication. Can have more physical contact, but we think it's really important to make it clear that this is something that needs to be defined by both individuals in any relationship, really, but specifically in a romantic relationship. There's nothing that you must do or not do necessarily. I think people get an idea in their head that if I'm in a romantic relationship, I'm supposed to be kissing them on a second date or whatever that might be, and that's not necessarily the case. It's something that's personal and individual and needs to be agreed upon by both of the people that are involved in that relationship. Okay. Any questions so far? Everyone's so quiet. Sophia? Wait, we gotta get a microphone to you. Hold on. I really like that you sat all the way back there because then Brandon has to go from up here to back there. That makes me happy. I know. We're trying to wake him up.
So I have a question about relationships too.
Sure.
I mean, I had experience with one before that was a really bad one. I don't know, but there is some different types of relationships that can be good, there can be abusive, there can actually be toxic, and you don't know what's going to happen between each person's lives.
Yep, you're exactly correct. And
That is it.
I don't know if you quite missed the beginning part, but we did talk about how like everything that we're talking about today is what we would and we're not experts again, but what we would consider to be characteristics of like a healthier relationship, right? So the mutual respect, open communication between one another, agreeing upon the type of relationship that you're going to have. All of those are a part of healthy relationships, but that's difficult. Like really maintaining healthy relationships is something that's difficult to do, and a lot of times and a lot of people end up in unhealthy relationships. And we're hoping that at the end of this, maybe our friends at Peel can talk to us about supports and resources. We love you. Because that's something that's really important too. I mean, it's I think a lot of people can say that they'll never end up in an abusive relationship or an unhealthy relationship, and I think it's easier to end up there than people think. And like you said, you never know where people are going to end up in their lives, so it's important to talk about that too. You keep bringing up great things in our sessions. I'm so thankful for you. Not thankful for that strange bug. Go ahead. All right, so some advice for all relationships. You are always in control of yourself within a relationship. Even if you do get into those unhealthy relationships, it can sometimes feel like you're not in control anymore. But that's important to remember, that you have a choice, and we talk a lot about advocacy here, and that's an important piece, I think, in any relationship, is being able to advocate for yourself. Respecting personal space. So not only protecting yourself and the space and personal space that you wish to have, but understanding and respecting that from the other person, asking them questions about what they're comfortable with and what they're not. Brandon spoke about professional relationships. I know that some people in my workplace consider hugging to be like a welcome, but there are some people that would be very uncomfortable with that. And I think understanding just because you love to hug somebody doesn't mean that somebody else is going to want to receive that. So I think respecting that is important. I can't say enough about how much communication is important, because that's when we get to learn all of this about one another, what works for them and what doesn't. Establishing boundaries for yourself, and then again, respecting another person's boundaries. Everyone should feel comfortable. So if you ever don't feel comfortable, then that's something that we need to be communicating or thinking about and working on in that relationship. And lastly, being honest. Anything to add, fellas?
Yes. As I get a little pelvic. One thing I do want to add is that ideally, all the relationships that you're going to have in your life should be able to provide you a positive contribution to your life. You know, one of the things that stuck out about Sylvia's point is that she mentioned that, you know, within this dynamic, there were some things that were draining emotionally, and that ideally should not be the case. All the interactions, all the relationships that you have in your life should be a sense of positive influence in your life. And part of that is, you know, it's communicating. Communication is key, as it says right there on the PowerPoint. That can get a little bit difficult with family members. You know, we're going to talk about it a little bit deeper in the session. I think that, you know, with the friendship, you know, everyone's on a level playing field, so it's, you know, it might be easier to communicate with your friends. And with a professional relationships, boundaries are such a hard part of that relationship that when it starts to get into family members, that can be, at times, it can be difficult. So always remember, always keep in mind that the relationships that we have in our life should be having some type of positive contribution to our experience, to our journey, because that is the definition of a healthy relationship.
I definitely agree with that. I was thinking while you were talking about something I feel like I've learned throughout my years. I think when I was in middle school or high school, and the youth in the room can speak to this too, I felt like looking back, that I had a lot of friendships where now I'm like, why did I stay friends with that person? That wasn't a pleasant experience for me. But there's something about sometimes being like in a school where you think that you need to be friends with this person, or maybe your best friend is also friends with this person, so you feel like you should try that too. And now I feel much more comfortable in my relationships because I learned that if a relationship is not adding something to my life, that's not a thing that I need to be going after or putting time into. And that doesn't mean that you're not social. That doesn't mean that you're a mean person. That just means that you're doing what's best for you. Because I also think that when I'm not happy in a relationship, I'm also not giving as much as I could be to the other people, which isn't fair to anybody either. Anybody have any other experiences that you want to talk about yet?
I have personal space between me and my own girlfriend.
So you like personal space? I'm repeating again for the.
We are previously dating, and our relationship is going to still be boyfriend and girlfriend. But it's too close to have us together as a married couple.
Right. So Chris brings up a really good point, and I want you to keep that story for when we talk about movement between the circles. Because for you said that you had a romantic relationship with somebody and you still wish to be friends with that person, but that form of that relationship didn't work out for you. And you both were able to kind of talk that out and decide on what did work for the two of you. So that it was still something that you were, it was still something beneficial to you, but it was something that was more comfortable.
Yes.
That's awesome. That was a great example. Thank you. Go ahead, Chris. So developing relationships is really hard. We've kind of been talking about what happens when you're in these different relationships. All relationships have some sort of rules, whether or not they're spoken or not. you want to be sure to get to know somebody, check in about what's working and what's not working. When you're, especially I think when you're first establishing a relationship, whether it be family members that you're getting into contact with, again, friends that you found, or even a new job or a new job experience that you might be on. Having these conversations with people about what they're comfortable with and what they're not. Maybe you ask a new coworker if they would like to go bowling sometime, and they might express to you that they've been wishing that somebody would ask them to go bowling. So then you know that that's an appropriate thing to do with them. Or somebody might say, you know what, I don't really tend to hang out with people that I work with. And then that's a boundary that you understand for them. Again, I told you I'm going to say communication a million times, and I am. But both sides of the communication is really important. So talking to people about what your wants and needs are, but also listening to what theirs are as well. Anything to add, guys?
I'll just add too about the relationships growing and changing. That can happen. You know, we talked about a romantic relationship changing into a friendship, but also with coworkers. You might have coworkers, and I do, who I consider friends as well. But when you're in that professional setting during the day, when you're working with them, they're a coworker, and your relationship is different at that time. And then maybe after work, your relationship turns into more of a friendship. So you wouldn't do the same things during the day with that coworker as you would maybe outside of the workplace.
Right. So not only can relationships change over time, but they can change based on the setting that you're in as well. So that is a good point. Go ahead. So this is for the adults in the room. Has anybody ever heard of the term helicopter parent? No one in this room, right? Sure. So we as young people like our independence, and we always talk about within PYLN about the dignity of failing at things, and I think that's something that's really difficult for parents, especially within relationships. It can sometimes feel dangerous to let our children and our youth go out and experience the trials and tribulations of relationships, whether that be a friendship or romantic. But that's completely normal and appropriate. Like, all youth anywhere are going to have relationships where their heart is broken, or friendships that end terribly. That's just kind of a part of life. That's about learning how relationships work. That has helped me in my life learn what I like and don't like in a relationship. So we really kind of advocate for parents or professionals being advisors as opposed to dictators in a relationship, meaning not necessarily telling people who they can and cannot be in relationships with, but talking to them about why they like to be in that relationship with that person. Asking, like what Chris said, what are you getting out of that relationship that's beneficial to you? And talking through with our youth about how to handle difficult situations that they might find themselves in. So we kind of end with a feeling that everyone experiences sadness, and that's okay, and that's sometimes when we grow the most. So really just focusing on asking ourselves the question, are we being safe? Can we get out of the bad situations if we're in them? And if we can answer yes to those questions, then the learning process is going to be a safer place.
I also want to acknowledge, especially for the adult allies in the room, how much this will kind of like go against your natural instinct,
Yes.
right? So like our human instinct and our animalistic nature is to protect the individuals that we love, especially the younger individuals that we love, from experience any type of strife, any type of turmoil, any type of pain. Although we want you to be a supportive role and always guarantee safety and protection for your youth. But part of developing healthy relationships is having that struggle within a relationship. So there may be times in which a relationship may end, or maybe a relationship might be going through a period of transition where that can lead to some situations, some brief moments of sadness. And it's difficult, to see your youth go through that sadness. But it is an integral part of developing a healthy and a robust relationship experience. So I just want to encourage the adult allies that even though, like I said, it might be very, very difficult, it is critically important. So it's very important in that moment to fight your instinct. Yes, question in the
Brandon,
back.
can you get a microphone back to them?
I don't know that I need a microphone, I just wanted to ask if there's any materials,
If there's any material,
any resources or materials on that.
Yes, absolutely. We are actually going to be doing a couple exercises in a few moments. The question was were there any resources or materials about the things that we're talking about, and absolutely, we're going to be doing a couple exercises throughout this presentation. Our idea is that you kind of take that's like a walk away resource sheet, but also we'll have tons of information that you can find online and through our organization about the things that we're talking about. So absolutely.
Do you also mean resources about like parents letting go and how they do that?
I haven't seen a lot of resources.
Sure. I am less familiar with that. I'm more familiar with like helping youth develop relationships.
I was gonna say the
I
Peel
was, like,
Center.
looking over
The
to our
Peel
Peel-
Center might have that. Brandon's like,
Are people
don't they?
familiar with what Peel
They have
is?
it over there.
Okay.
Okay.
We have questions. We have questions.
Okay. Question.
Yeah, there's an adult. So tonight during the youth session, 7:30 to 9, I believe, in room 108. We're here right now. Yeah, in this room, there's going to be a parent session at that same time, and they're going to be talking a little bit about consuming competence and dignity of risk and that kind of thing. So Peel is hosting that. So that's the Parent Education Advocacy Leadership Center for the state. So if you're interested in getting more information about that tonight.
So those that could not hear Aaron, Peel is hosting a parent mixer. We heard the parents and we have answered their wishes. Every time the youth have a dance, parents are like, but what about us? And we said, that's not our specialty. Peel? Question mark? And then,
Not us specifically.
I know. It's because you're young people still.
We don't do good with adults.
Yeah. But the adults of Peel will be here. But they are a wealth of information, especially about that portion of it. We would be more than happy to talk to you about the youth perspective piece of that. I've talked to many a parent about my feeling about my own parents' reaction to me developing different relationships and going through different trials. So while we could have a conversation about that, specific resources, they would be a better fit for that. Yes.
It's not so much a question as
Sure.
I tell my daughter Sophia, which you know quite well,
Yes, we
that we all need to have different relationships because they help us grow. And just like we make mistakes and learn in school, then we get better at it so that
Yep.
when we meet the right person, we've already made the mistakes and the people that don't matter.
Absolutely.
So that when we get to the right one,
True.
we know what to do right.
Absolutely.
And then it's okay to be sad.
Yeah.
Sometimes being sad is good.
Absolutely.
That's what you do with the sadness.
Even if the
agree.
relationship was bad, it's okay to be sad because it's gone and then move on.
Yep. And one of the things I appreciate most about your feedback is that like in that sadness you are fully expecting and telling us to appreciate the learning experience, like the growth that you're going to get from that period of sadness. So although it sucks and it hurts that you're going through it, but you're also learning and adapting and these things that you can carry forward with your future. So it's raining outside right now, but one of the things we appreciate about the rain is that the sun will come back out eventually. So absolutely.
Exactly.
Yep. Thanks so much for that.
Brandon, I was trying to give you signals through osmosis. Can you please hand out things?
Oh, yeah.
So, Brandon is going to be handing out our
Relationship circle.
relationship circle because I'm looking at time and we somehow only have 20 minutes left. I know that these hours fly by. So, we do what is called a relationship circle, and if you even Google that term, there are like 1,000,001 different resources out there. I think this one specifically is called the relationship target, which I loved because you'll see that in the center is the word you, Y-O-U. And we talk about person-centered planning, youth-led, youth-driven, and that is very much how we think that everything should be started. Thinking about your perspective first, where you come from, and then going from there. So it is intentionally very blank. If you need a pen, can you like raise your hand? Because we'll also bring those around. We're going to be asking you to write on it. So we're talking about all of these categories of relationships in terms of the type. So family, friends, professional, romantic. Now we want you to kind of think about relationships in terms of who's closest to you, and then as they go further out. So the circle immediately next to you are the people that you would term closest to you. The next is like that mid-level, so not extremely close, but you still have a decent amount of contact with them. And then the outer circle are those that you would describe as not being close to you at all, but they're still in your life in some sort of way. And I'm specifically being general because I want us to then have a conversation about how people made the decision about where they fell in those different circles. Does anybody have any questions about that? And feel free to talk amongst yourself. You all have been like the most quiet crowd of all time. Feel free to bring us over to have conversations about it. I'm going to give us... Sure. So I want you to like write either people's names. So you could write like mom, dad, or you could write my boss, or my support staff, my teacher. However you want to do that in the different circles depending on how close they are to you. Yes, question?
So, here's a question.
Yes, please.
So the farthest circle is like, so the circles represent distance to a place.
Distance in whatever way you define that. Does that make sense? So not like it takes you an hour to get to them, but people that, yep, okay, cool. Thank you. Yep, we're gonna give you maybe like 5+ minutes. If you get finished early and you're feeling antsy, we do want people to write examples up on the board, and Brandon will help facilitate that. So Brandon, can you read some examples of the outer circle?
So we got a bunch of.
All right, guys, we're gonna start talking about this,
Ready?
and Brandon is such an important person. We want to listen to him.
Whoa.
I
Saying
know,
nice things about me.
That was so nice.
All right, so we got a bunch of friends listed here, it looks like, at the outer
Yeah.
circle. We got brother-in-law, PYLN members.
Ooh, ooh.
We
Made
made
it.
we made the outer
We
circle.
made it.
My boss, got more friends, and then sisters.
All right.
Interesting.
I like that. I like that. What about the next?
Next circle, I think Opa and Oma, I believe, are grandparents, probably.
Yeah.
Is that what that means? All right. Roommates, family friends, and Ryan.
That's a good one.
So maybe a friend or
All right, Ryan.
friend
Got
of yours.
it.
There we go. And
Inner?
then we got a lot in the inner circle. We got sisters, staff, girlfriend, cat. Classic. Is there
Yep.
any dogs?
Yep.
Yeah, we got a dog too. That's where I'd put.
Good.
Yeah. The cat's name is.
I love
Someone help me with the cat's name. Matisse. Matisse.
The artist?
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah, nice.
I don't know. That's deeper than I.
I don't know
I don't
that
know.
Cats have to
artist.
be on there because they know too much.
That's true. It's more of a self-protective thing.
Right on.
I would have probably like somewhere in between the inner and next. I would have put like my group of friends, as I call them, my entourage.
We got an entourage somewhere in between the inner and next
So
circle.
you brought up a really good point too, and we have these kind of different steps, and we don't have time to talk about all of them as much as I would like. But the first step in kind of doing this is categorizing people, right? So how did you really know where to put the people that you did and where you put them? What sort of questions did you ask yourself? Can anybody tell me? Sure.
Like for your inner circle, you probably ask yourself, like, do I trust
Microphone. Microphone.
So you
It's don't yell at
decide
me.
sometimes to repeat and then other times not.
I know. Well, that I thought I was going to be able to repeat it, but then she said lots of good things.
For the inner circle, I would say myself and others included thought about people that they can trust and tell stuff to.
Yeah. That's a good one.
I feel like people you can be your inner goofball with, you know? Like people you can be a goofball with, like let your freak
Yep.
flag fly.
Yeah,
You know?
girl.
But I'm goofy with everyone. Is that inappropriate?
No, but I think Katie, like I'm the same way. I tend to not be. Maybe I should be a little more different between people that I'm around. But the people that receive my goofiness the most, right? So the ones that are like, oh, look at her, just look at her go with her goofy self. Those are the people that are in my inner circle. The ones who look at me strange, outer circle, for sure. All right, so step 2, we wanted to just touch briefly about the fact that you probably think and feel and interact differently between the levels, and we were sort of thinking that that might be one way that you decide where they sort of fall within your circles. So your inner circle are people who you probably think and feel really comfortable with, and you might interact with them more frequently. So I see like staff up there, our dogs, our cats. These are people or animals. Sometimes I think that my dog is a person that are around you all of the time, right? We enjoy, for the most part, our time. And not to say that you don't have to sometimes not enjoy your time with your inner circle, but for the most part, you really like being around them. That next circle, the mid-level circle, might be people that you spend slightly less time with or you see on occasion. You have positive thinking and feelings about them, but it might not necessarily be somebody that you would call immediately if you have a problem. And then that outer circle might be people that you see very infrequently or only in really formal settings. And the fact that they might be like people in your community, so you don't necessarily think of them as a close friend, but you still recognize that they're a part of your life, right? And then Taylor brought up something really important about, who did you say you were going to put between inner and next circle? Entourage. Your entourage, right? So not only is there overlap in movement, but who here had a really hard time picking between two circles? Like if you could have, you would have put them on the line, right? I think we have a lot of those people in our life, and sometimes I think it's because of that movement. Like, well, I might not see them a whole lot, but they are a really good person if I have a problem with my girlfriend or my boyfriend, so I call on them. So those types of people are sort of on the border, and that's okay. Again, we're trying to like put things in boxes that aren't really in boxes. There also can be movement. Who's ever had somebody who's been in the outer circle that sort of over time moves closer and closer into your inner circle, right? That's sort of what happens when you're establishing relationships and developing and maintaining them. They typically, I've only had a couple people I think in my life that like were immediate inner circle people, right? Those are the people that you really click with, you get excited to see all the time. Our best friends a lot of times fall into that. But typically they kind of start on the outside and then get closer to us. I've also had best friends that have slowly sort of moved their way out of the circle, right? Who's ever had that here? Yeah, I'm seeing a lot of head nods. And that's okay too. That's nothing to be extremely sad about. That just might be a really healthy thing that there's movement between our circles. Yes?
I just want to comment on that too, that one aspect you haven't really mentioned much
Sure.
is when you're looking at these 3 levels or the 3 circles. Also look at these people as to how they feel about you
Yep.
and how they treat you and what you expect to receive from them because of their interest in your well-being.
That's 100% correct. Can you give me like a specific example for
Like a
folks?
parent is definitely going to be always concerned about your health and your safety and your well-being, where a person on the outer circle, they're an acquaintance, a neighbor, somebody you know, but they're not going to have your best interests in mind.
Sure. And that might not mean that they mean you any harm or anything bad, but that it's not really, you're not on their mind all that much, just like they're not on your mind, if that makes sense. Whereas our parents, for example, you know, I know that even at 28 years old, my mom and dad are still constantly thinking about me and my brother and how we're doing and what we're doing, versus our neighbor who, if they saw me laying on the street, they would help me out, but they're not thinking right now, like, I wonder where Allie is. I wonder what she's doing, you know? So that's a really good point. I would, and this is the last thing I'll say, because I'm already over time, I would also argue that thinking about other people's feelings about me would help me place them in different circles as well. We talked a lot about the mutual respect and relationship with people. I think that's really important. All right, code. TBA 183. Ugh, working memory. It's a yeah, so we're calling it a block party tonight because, spoiler alert, we're having not only music, but we're having fun games as well. So we're calling it a block party. And again, the parents are, I guess they're going to be in this room. Is that what we're agreeing upon? Cool. So a nice little mixer. Although yes, so Expo, get your little card daubed by all the fun colors, and then put that in for a raffle right? We're doing the raffle right now, I think, right? Next hour or so, and then I believe 5:30 might be when they're pooling.